Shalom. Tonight, I want to share with you a teaching about an object you have touched at least once today, possibly many times. You picked it up without thinking, you used it automatically, you set it down somewhere in your home this evening and did not give it a second thought. I am talking about your key, not your wallet, not a coin, not a candle or a bowl of salt. Your key. The ordinary, unremarkable, slightly scratched piece of metal that opens the door of your home. The one that lives in your pocket or your bag or on a hook by the door, and that you treat, like most people treat it, as purely functional. A tool, nothing more. But in the ancient Jewish wisdom tradition, the key carries a meaning that most modern people have completely lost. It is a symbol so old, so layered with teaching about provision and Parnassa and the opening of blessing, that when you understand it tonight, when you truly hear what the ancient teachers saw in this object, you will never pick up your keys the same way again. And the practice I want to share with you is this. Tonight, before you sleep, place your key beside your wallet. Not thrown together carelessly, placed, intentionally, with an understanding of what each object represents and what the act of bringing them together is declaring about your relationship with provision, with your home, and with the flow of blessing that is meant to move through your life. Stay with me, because what this teaching holds is older than you might imagine, and closer to your front door than you have ever realized. But first, I want to sit with you for a moment in the place where you actually are tonight, because something brought you here, and I suspect it was not a casual click. I suspect it was something that has been building quietly, a pressure, a worry, a weariness that you carry most days without fully naming it, but that you feel in your body the moment money becomes the subject. Maybe you are someone who works genuinely hard. You give your time, your energy, your best effort, and yet at the end of the month, the numbers do not reflect the effort. There is always a gap between what you earn and what you need. Always another bill that arrives at the wrong moment. Always the feeling that you are running on a track that moves faster than your legs, that no matter how much ground you cover, you are somehow always in the same place. Or perhaps it is not the acute pain of not enough. Perhaps it is something more like the low, persistent hum of financial uncertainty that never fully quiets. The background anxiety that follows you through meals and conversations and moments that should feel good but are colored by the worry underneath. The way you cannot fully settle into the present because some part of you is always scanning for the next financial threat, always braced, always waiting for the thing that will undo whatever fragile stability you have managed to build. And perhaps the most painful part is not the fear itself, but what the fear has done to your sense of what is possible. It has made you smaller. It has shrunk the dreams you allow yourself to dream. It has made generosity feel dangerous. It has made trust feel naive. It has built walls around your heart in the name of protection and called those walls wisdom, when really they are just fear that has been living in one place for so long, it has started to look like furniture. I want to say something to you directly, without softening it or rushing past it. You are not lazy. You are not cursed. You are not someone who was built for struggle while everyone else was built for ease. The difficulty you are carrying is real, and it is not your fault in the ways that shame would have you believe. But I also want to say this. There is a difference between the circumstances of your financial life and the posture you bring to them. Circumstances can change, but a posture built on fear, on the certainty that provision is always about to run out, on the deep and unexamined belief that you are not someone to whom good things flow freely, that posture will follow you through every improvement, every raise, every season of relative ease, and quietly prevent you from fully receiving what is already trying to reach you. And that is what tonight's teaching is about. The opening of a different posture. The placing of a key beside a wallet as a daily declaration that you are someone whose doors are open, whose home is ready, whose hands are ready, whose heart is ready to receive the provision that is meant for you. In Jewish wisdom, the word for the flow of provision into a person's life is Parnassa. We have returned to this word many times in these teachings because it sits at the center of everything we are exploring together. Parnassa is not simply money. It is the divine sustenance that moves toward a person who is aligned in their giving, their trust, their stewardship, their relationship with the small things and the large things of their financial life. The ancient teachers taught that Parnassa flows like water. It seeks an opening. It moves toward the channel that is clear and unblocked. And it slows and sometimes stops when it encounters a life that is closed. Closed in fear, closed in greed, closed in the kind of financial anxiety that causes a person to grip so tightly that nothing new can enter the hand that is already clenched around what little it holds. Pay close attention now, because this is where the key enters the teaching with its full ancient meaning. In the Jewish mystical tradition, in the Kabbalah, and in the writings of the great medieval sages, the key is understood as a symbol of opening, of unlocking, of the permission granted for something to flow that was previously held back. The Hebrew word for key is maftiach, and maftiach shares its root with the word petach, opening, doorway, entrance. The key is not merely a mechanical tool. It is the symbol of access, of the possibility of entry, of the threshold between the closed and the open. And in some Jewish teachings, keys are connected directly to the keys of Parnassa, the keys of livelihood, which the ancient sages taught are held by the divine and are given to a person in the season of their alignment, not as a reward for perfection, not as the outcome of a formula, but as the natural result of a life that has been lived with openness, with giving, with trust, with the kind of inner posture that creates the conditions for blessing to enter. Now, listen carefully. This is where the practice takes on its deepest meaning. When you place your key beside your wallet before you sleep, you are doing something that works on two levels simultaneously. On one level, you are bringing together the two objects that represent the two essential dimensions of your material life. The wallet holds your provision, the money, the cards, the financial resources that flow through your hands each day. The key holds your access, your home, your shelter, your belonging, the physical place where your life is rooted. Together, they represent everything you are working to protect, to maintain, to grow. They represent your Parnassa in its fullest sense, not just money, but the whole of the livelihood you are building. And on a deeper level, placing the key beside the wallet is a declaration. It is saying, my home is open to provision. The door is not locked against blessing. I am not someone who lives braced against good things, guarded against abundance, shut tight in fear. I am someone whose key and whose wallet rest together in peace, because my home and my provision are not in conflict. They are aligned. And I am choosing tonight and every night to live from that alignment, rather than from the fear that would keep everything locked and separate and defended. But here's the part most people miss. The key does not only represent what you open for yourself, it represents what you have the power to open for others. In Jewish wisdom, the homeowner who opens their door to guests, to those in need, to the stranger who requires shelter, that person is performing one of the highest acts of spiritual alignment available to a human being. The practice of haknasat orhim, the welcoming of guests, is considered by many sages to be greater even than receiving the divine presence directly. Because when you open your door, you are demonstrating in the most physical and irreversible way possible that you are not closed, that your home is not a fortress guarded against the world, that you are a person who gives access, who welcomes, who opens rather than locks. And a person who opens their door for others, the teaching says, finds that their own doors, the doors of provision, the doors of opportunity, the doors of blessing, are opened in return. Not as a transaction, not as a cosmic exchange where one hospitality equals one financial reward, but as the natural consequence of a life lived with open hands and an open door. Let me tell you about a woman named Leah. Leah had been living alone for 4 years after her husband passed. She was not old, in her mid-50s, but the grief had aged certain parts of her in ways that had surprised her. She had kept working, kept managing, kept the household running through the sheer force of the discipline she had built over a lifetime. But the financial anxiety that had crept in after his death had become, over time, one of her most constant companions. She was not in poverty, but she was in the particular kind of financial tightness that comes from being a single income, where there had always been two, from the unexpected costs of maintaining a home alone, from the weight of knowing that everything rested on her and that there was no margin for error. She had become, without fully realizing it, a woman who kept everything locked, her emotions, her needs, her home. She had not had a guest in over a year. She had stopped giving tzedakah because she told herself she could not afford to. She had begun sleeping with her wallet on the nightstand, as though guarding it through the night would keep it from emptying. One afternoon, she visited her community's rebbitzin, a wise and gentle woman named Shulamit, who had known Leah for 20 years and who had watched the closing happen with quiet concern. They sat together for a long time, and Leah found herself saying things she had not said to anyone, about the fear, about the locked feeling, about the way she had started treating her own home as something to be defended rather than something to be inhabited with joy. Shulamit listened without interrupting. When Leah finished, the older woman reached into her bag and took out her own key ring. She set it on the table between them. She said, "Do you know what a key is, really, in our tradition?" Leah waited. "A key is a promise," Shulamit said. "It is the promise that something can be opened, that there is a door, and the door is not permanently locked. And when we forget that, when we start treating our lives and our homes and our finances like things to be guarded rather than opened, we accidentally lock ourselves in with the fear. We think we are protecting what we have, but what we are actually doing is preventing anything new from entering." She told Leah about an old practice, something her own grandmother had done in the difficult years after immigrating to a new country with almost nothing. Every night before sleeping, her grandmother would place her house key on the table beside her small coin purse, the closest thing she had to a wallet, and she would say, "My home is open to blessing. My provision is open to increase. I am not locked. I am not closed. I am ready." Her grandmother did this not because she believed the key was magic. She did it because she knew that the posture she brought to her sleep was the posture she would carry into the morning. And she refused, no matter how tight things were, to fall asleep in the posture of a locked door. Leah sat very still for a long moment. That night she went home and found her keys. She set them on the dresser beside her wallet. She stood looking at them for a while. Then she said quietly to the empty room, "My home is open. My provision is open. I am not locked." She invited a neighbor for tea the following week. She resumed her small tzedakah practice the week after that. She had a conversation with her employer about a possibility she had been too afraid to raise for 2 years. The conversation went better than she had dared to hope. The doors did not all open at once, but they began to open, one at a time, in the way that real doors open, not magically, but consequentially. Because a woman who lives like her doors are open moves through the world differently than a woman who lives like everything must be guarded. She sees opportunities that fear made invisible. She has conversations that anxiety made impossible. She gives what was being hoarded and finds that the giving makes room for something new to arrive. Leah still places her key beside her wallet every night. She has never stopped. Not because she thinks the key has power, but because she knows what the key reminds her to be. And being reminded every single night before sleep is not a small thing. It is everything. This is where the ancient wisdom becomes practical. Let me give you the 3 sacred keys of this practice. The first key is the symbol of access, training yourself to see open doors. Fear is a lens that makes everything look locked. It scans the landscape of your financial life and finds, reliably and repeatedly, all the evidence for closure. The door that did not open, the opportunity that did not come, the provision that did not arrive. And the more consistently you look through that lens, the more locked everything becomes. Not because the doors are actually locked, but because a person who expects locked doors stops trying the handles. The key beside your wallet is a nightly retraining of that lens. Every morning when you pick up both objects, when your hand touches the key and then touches the wallet, you are reminded that you are a person who opens things, who has access, who lives in a home with a door that can be unlocked. That reminder, small as it is, shifts the lens, and a shifted lens, over time, changes what you see, and what you see determines what you seek, and what you seek determines what you find. The second key is the practice of the open door, hospitality as spiritual alignment. In Jewish wisdom, the open door is not just a metaphor, it is a practice. And the practice of opening your home, in whatever form that takes in your season of life, however modest the hospitality, is understood as one of the most direct paths to the opening of your own blessing. When you give access to others, you are demonstrating with your body and your home and your resources that you are not a closed person, that your life is not a fortress, that you operate from abundance, even when the abundance is small. And people who operate from abundance, even small abundance, tend to find more of it, not through magic, but through the natural consequence of the posture of open hands. This week, open your door in some way. Invite someone. Offer something. Give what you have been holding. Let the key represent not only what you open for yourself, but what you open for others. The third key is the declaration of readiness, speaking your alignment before you sleep. The last thought before sleep becomes the first thought upon waking. The ancient teachers understood this. They understood that what we carry into sleep shapes what we carry into the morning, and they encouraged the practice of closing the day with words of trust, of gratitude, of alignment with provision. When you place your key beside your wallet and speak your declaration before sleeping, you are sending yourself to rest in a posture of openness rather than a posture of fear, and you wake in that same posture. And the day that begins from openness moves differently than the day that begins from a locked and defended heart. Now, let me give you the complete practice. Tonight, before you go to sleep, bring your house key to the surface where your wallet rests. Your dresser, your nightstand, your shelf. Place them side by side, the key on the left, the wallet on the right. Not thrown together, placed with intention. Take a moment to look at them together. Two objects. One represents your home, your access, your door. The other represents your provision, your Parnassa, your financial life. Tonight, they rest together. They are not separate. They are aligned. Place your right hand over both objects and speak these words, or words like them, out loud. My home is open to blessing. My provision is not locked. I am not a closed door. I am an open one. My Parnassa flows freely into this home and through these hands. I give as well as receive. I welcome as well as hold. And I go to rest tonight, not in fear, but in trust that the doors that are meant to open for me are already opening. Then perform your act of Tzedakah for the day, a small amount set aside, a generous thought acted upon, an offering made freely from what you have. Let this be the seal on the practice, the physical confirmation that your hands are open, and not merely your words. Do this for 7 nights. Each night, the key and the wallet together. Each night, the spoken declaration. Each day, one act of giving. On the 7th morning, notice, not whether your bank account has dramatically changed, but whether something in your posture has changed, whether the locked feeling has begun to loosen, whether you are moving through your days a little more like a person with an open door and a little less like a person guarding against the world. Then begin again if you feel called to. There is no wrong number of times to practice alignment. Now, speak this declaration out loud, wherever you are, in whatever voice you have tonight. My home is open. My provision is not locked. I am not braced against blessing. I am ready for it. My key and my wallet rest together because my shelter and my Parnassa are aligned. I give freely. I trust completely. And I declare tonight that the doors of provision in my life are open. I am not locked. I am ready. I am blessed. Say it again tonight when you place the key beside the wallet. Say it like you mean it, even if the meaning is still fragile. The declaration comes before the certainty. That is always how it works. Before I close, I want to say what integrity requires me to say. The key is not magic. Placing it beside your wallet will not conjure money or force open a door that is meant to remain closed for a season. No practice, however ancient and however sincerely performed, is a transaction that obligates the divine to deliver a specific financial result. That is not what this tradition teaches, and it is not what I am offering you. What I am offering you is an alignment practice, a nightly reminder that you are someone who lives in a home with a door, and that door can be opened. That your provision and your dwelling are not enemies, but partners. That the posture of an open door, practiced daily and confirmed through giving, creates conditions in which blessing can actually land, can actually stay, can actually grow. The object is not the power. The intention behind the object is the power. The declaration spoken over it is the power. The open door you extend to another person is the power. And all of that power is already inside you, waiting for the daily practice that calls it forward. If tonight's teaching opened something in you, go to the comments right now and write these words: "My door is open." Write it as your declaration for tonight. Write it as the beginning of the posture you are choosing. Write it because words placed with intention, even in a small comment, are seeds. And seeds planted in the right soil do what seeds always do. If you want to continue walking this path, to receive more of these ancient Jewish teachings on Parnassa, on the wisdom that lives inside the ordinary objects of your home, on the practices that have carried people through scarcity and into blessing across thousands of years, please subscribe to this channel. Every teaching here is offered with reverence, with care, and with a genuine love for the people who arrive here searching for something real. And in the next teaching, I want to show you something that has lived in Jewish homes for generations. A small box, often simple, often worn, placed in a visible spot and never hidden away. Not a jewelry box, not a storage box, a tzedakah box, a dedicated vessel for giving. And what the ancient teachers understood about what happens to a home that keeps such a box, about the way a dedicated space for giving changes the financial energy of everything around it, is one of the most practical and most beautiful teachings in this entire tradition. That teaching is coming, and it will show you that the most powerful financial practice in ancient Jewish wisdom is not about holding at all. It is about releasing. Until then, shalom. May your key remind you every morning that your door is open. May your wallet rest tonight beside the symbol of your home and your access. And may the Parnassa that is meant for you find in you not a locked door, but a welcome one.